Sri Lanka continues to stare at a debilitating economic crisis which shows no signs of abating. Days after violent protests and political pressure forced Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa to step down from his post, five-time Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe took over the reins of the government. On May 12, 73-year-old Wickremesinghe was sworn into the post for the sixth time. Here's a look at his career and why all eyes are on him to pull Sri Lanka out of the economic meltdown. Wickremesinghe entered politics in the 1970s and was made the Deputy Foreign Affairs Minister at the age of 28, the youngest cabinet minister in Sri Lanka's history. At present, he is the sole parliamentary representative of the United National Party, which once dominated Sri Lankan politics, but was decimated in the previous general elections. He has helmed the party since 1994. In his career spanning more than 4 decades, Wickremesinghe has lost 2 presidential elections. Wickremesinghe became the Prime Minister first in 1993, when former Premier Rana Singhe Premadasa was assassinated by the LTTE. He remained in office for less than a year. His second stint was in 2002 when he led his party to victory in the country's first general elections. That was a time when the island nation was caught up in a violent civil war between Tamil rebels and the Sri Lankan government. Wickremesinghe's international outreach to rebuild the war-ravaged country helped Sri Lanka receive more than $4 billion in foreign aid. He started peace talks with the LTTE during this time and inked an all-important ceasefire, for which he was globally lauded. His government fell in 2004 after then-President Chandrika Kumaratunga dissolved the parliament. When Maithripala Sirisena became President of Sri Lanka in 2015, he appointed Wickremesinghe as the Prime Minister on the basis of a Memorandum of Understanding signed between their parties. Wickremesinghe's tenure was rocked by an insider trading scam involving central bank bonds. Arjuna Mahendran, the key accused and then central bank chief, was a childhood friend of Wickremesinghe. Wickremesinghe was also accused of shielding the corrupt politicians of the previous Rajapaksa regime. He was removed from the post in October 2018 amid rising debt and slump in the economy, and Mahinda Rajapaksa was appointed in his place. The decision was challenged by Wickremesinghe in Supreme Court, leading to a constitutional stalemate that saw him returning as PM by late 2018. The biggest jolt for the Wickremesinghe government came in April 2019 when 269 people, including at least 45 foreigners, were killed and hundreds more were injured after multiple explosions tore through churches and luxury hotels in Sri Lanka on Easter Day. The attack, undertaken by a radical Islamic terrorist group, was the most gruesome since the civil war in Sri Lanka. The attack was ascribed to an intelligence failure and miscommunication between the Prime Minister and then President Maithripala Sirisena. Wickremesinghe resigned as Prime Minister in 2019, taking responsibility for the attacks. In his 6th term, Wickremesinghe is faced with the massive task of rebuilding the tottering economy of Sri Lanka, where prices of everyday commodities are shooting through the roof, triggering public resentment and violent agitations. Wickremesinghe is an advocate of free market capitalism, which many hope may help in bringing Sri Lanka out of its financial woes amid negotiations with the International Monetary Fund. A Federal Report.